We're a Hawaiian focused charter school on Kauai. And we want to teach the Hawaiian culture and actually teaching everything integrated through the Hawaiian values. And our school had a values, Peter. It's really long. And not that any one of these are not important, but they are super important. I look at it and I'm just like, no way. And I can't imagine how we would expect kids to be able to do that. So the first thing we did was try to organize this list in a way that we can teach it to the kids. And not that these values fall under like Kuleana doesn't just have these things. All of these kind of flow together and they are, they could fall under each thing. But we really wanted to hit that we're being pono by following the Ailike, which is like our student code of conduct contract with Aloha. And so we kind of just talked about having because we're K-12, talking about pono and aloha with the kindergartners, and then moving on to the ohi and kuleana and malama, which we have shirts for our lower grades, and then adding the depth with the more specific values. Okay, that being said, we've done we have our tiers and stuff for academics. Last year we worked on behavior, physical health is there, and social emotional. But they're all part of one tree, but they're not separate. It's integrated. Leaves aren't all of one color on one branch and all of a different color on another in a shade or whatever. So we talked about, we kind of use the tree as the metaphor, and that when all visible supports are gone, why does that tree still stand? And I'm sure this is one that we've seen. And how do we keep those roots strong to keep our tree standing? Is our positive relationships, our self-regulation, and the Navaivai, which are the Hawaiian values and cultural practices. So this is more specific for our school. And then our upcoming PD, this was just again for our staff, was going to be around, I think there's 4 clicks here. Positive behavioral interventions and supports, restorative justice, and doing the mindful practices and using trauma-informed strategies. The next one is just about the standards themselves. So we instead of going to a specific program, we decided to adopt standards that are from the CASEL 5. And we kind of went with the state of Hawaii. The state of Illinois has adopted a set of standards. And what's nice is there's just 3 goals, and it's the same for K-12 through K-12. And then there's different benchmarks for each one, depending on the grade level band. And because it's developmental, there's a lot of overlapping between grades. So we wanted to have something that could be taught again in any subject. And it's not something that, because for so long it was SEL was done when the counselor came in and was a specific program. So we wanted something that we can incorporate. And so the kids see the same 3 goals and the same 10 standards, K-12. And just as we were talking about with the peace, you've got yourself, others. Anyway, if you click on that other one at the bottom, this link, it'll take you exactly to the standards. And I can just show you, because even though this came from the state of Illinois, they did not present it in this way. And it was very difficult to figure out how they put it together. So I put it together like this. So if you go to that link in the bottom, we have the 3 goals. And then, so like goal 1 is identify and manage one's emotions and behavior, recognize potential qualities, qualities in themselves. So a lot of what, the projects you guys have already been working on, what are the things that you're good at? And then demonstrate skills related to achieving personal and academic goals. And we want to still do these through teaching the values. So if you look here, this performance indicator thing, there's stage, between A and J. And in kindergarten, we don't expect kids to be further developed than the A. And you can see here how they kind of overlap grades in the bands. So what's considered, it's okay to be where they are, but we do want to, we will be evaluating kids along this continuum as well. So if you click on the bottom, the second tab, okay. So this is the goal, is to develop self-awareness and management skills, and the stages are across the board here. So K-3, and then stage A will be identify emotions, happy, sad, surprise. I mean, the things that we do in kindergarten. But if you look at what that means to a 11th or 12th grader, is explaining the consequences of different forms of communicating one's emotions. I mean, so like it's going to be a lot more in depth. It's going to be a lot more applicable to that age range, but still the same goal. The individual reporting is, we've come up with a little rudimentary thing that we're going to be adding to our report cards. We also put in a half stage, because, you know, all of this is subjective and we really want to try to make it as meaningful as possible. So can they do the things in one stage, but some of the things in the next, but not all of the things in the next? That's a half. So that's that piece. The next step for this was to have that standardized assessment piece. And I know the DOE has provided the panorama, which is, it's a tool and they can tick their box. But it's students self-reported, and just based on what we see, because we only have 200 students K-12, we know them pretty well, and seeing how some of the kids self-report is very different from how we know them. So we actually wrote a grant to be able to get a screener that's aligned with the CASEL standards, and specifically to the standards that we have. And it's DESA is the name of the very short little assessment. And there's resources through this company to target specific lessons for specific skills. And I think that it's going to complement this very well. We just got it. DESA it's DESS. I'll put it up there. I'll put the link in there in a little to it. It's through Aperture is the name of the company. And you can get the DESA on its own. I think it's through, I want to say Pearson maybe has, but this takes teachers' assessments, and they're very short to be able to determine like where kids are and what areas they need those supports and what those next steps should be. And there's tons of resources, a lot from programs we already have. And it's not just one particular program, as much as us being able to identify exactly where our kids are and how to bring them to that next step. And we do want it to be something that is school-wide. So the next evolution in this piece is our school, the commission, and I think Kamehameha schools have come up with these Kahua standards, which are broken down for like language arts and math through different areas. Like one would be sense of place, sense of belonging, sense of community, and sense of responsibility. And so what we're going to be doing is taking all of our standards, academic, social, emotional, and otherwise, and put them into those areas. So it's going to start with sense of self, sense of space, sense of belonging, sense of community, and sense of responsibility. And the idea is that at the end of this, we're getting a bigger picture of who these kids are, if that makes any sense. Okay, I'm done. Because that's about where we are.
Thank you so much, Susan. I'm seeing a couple questions in the chat. Do you want to try and take about 30 seconds to a minute to try to tackle those?
Oh, unique needs. We have lots of unique needs. We also have available, we have our counselors, we have a social worker, and we're always outside the box thinking of how we're going to meet our kiddos' needs. Our whole school is about, it's a Hawaiian focused charter school, and we're in Anahola, which is a pretty poor community, but it's all about community renewal as well. And what can we do to help support the community of Anahola? And I think that one of the things we can do is get these kids to a different place so they're ready to not to share their culture with other people and other cultures and be able to interact outside of Hawaii or Kauai itself.